Yeah, I'm still here, dog. Oh, and I'm back, dog. Oh, you just went and turned your back, dog. What's up, my dudes? Got my new custom track, Night Trail. Some of you guys might be saying, oh, don't get too extravagant with that title of that track there, Spence. That is definitely the most unique track name I've ever seen in my life. Night Trail, right? Like, pretty freaking obvious what's going on here. Basically, the reason why I titled it such a simple name like that is because I was kind of following some of my, you guys know I made the morning trail track, the evening trail track, so it just kind of all came together to make the title Night Trail. I know it's actually quite simple, but yeah, that's basically where that came from. So yeah, man, just wanted to come in here and make something. I know that I've been telling a lot of you guys, like, I've been doing this and that with having all these custom tracks going to be coming out. I'm like 80% done with 2 or 3 tracks, and this track right here is not those tracks at all. This is a brand spanking new track that I just whipped up, just wanting to make something random, so I still have a lot of other tracks going to be coming out. Don't just think, oh, well, here's the one Spencer Turley track that we get about every 5 months. No, I got a lot going to be coming out. It's going to be going crazy here pretty soon, so yeah, man, just wanted to go in here and make a cool track. Obviously, it's got the fog effect going, kind of give you that spooky nighttime Halloween type of vibe. But it's actually probably the easiest trail track I've ever made before. It's actually quite a simple track. There are a couple of sections that do get a little bit more difficult, but a lot easier to flow on this track. It's a lot easier just in general to get around the track. You don't have to worry so much about, you know, going up this crazy enduro cross, like you got to go back down the hill 50,000 times just to make it up one section, right? Like, I didn't want to make it quite that difficult, so it is a bit more on the, I would call this more like a medium difficulty track right here. So it does have some more flat style sections, some other sections that get a little bit more realistic with the rut design and stuff on them, but obviously you can see the multiple different multi-lane sections. You can either go like to the left over a log or to the right over like a really hardcore wall jump section or whatever. So there's definitely a lot of different options in that sense. But yeah, had a lot of fun making this one, man. Didn't put too many restrictions on myself. Just kind of went in there and started building the terrain, kind of made some cool little hills and valleys, and you get this really natural effect on the track where it just has that cool like feeling of you're going up the hill and then it kind of irks over to the left and then you go back down the hill and then you go back up the hill as you're turning. It's got this very natural, like you're actually going through a forest kind of feeling to it. So these trees right here are actually collidable, as you guys know that I put on a lot of my trail tracks. But it's not like super hardcore collision, so you know you got a little bit of room for error. So if you do like accidentally graze up a tree a little bit, it's not like it's going to just knock you instantly off the bike. The actual collision, you know, radius of the trees are not super far out, so you can pretty much like rub up a tree and it won't really do anything. You kind of got to hit it more in the center for it to really, you know, knock you off the bike, so that makes it to where you can kind of bounce off the trees a little bit easier and stuff like that. But yeah, man, put a lot of cool little objects together, little off-track, kind of almost like a cornfield type object over there to bring the whole track around. Kind of got a bit of a fall type of feeling. You know, you got some fall trees going on in combination with these bigger trees. Now, your first couple laps on this track are definitely going to be a little bit tricky figuring out where the hell you're even going, because I never put a map on my tracks. I always chose not to do that. I think it gives you a little bit more of a realism feel when you take the map out. I don't know, it gives it more like it's, that's just a weird Spencer Turley personal thing that I do. I could easily put a map in there, you know, it's not like I can't or some shit, it's just I just choose not to. So basically it's going to be a little bit tricky. There's going to be a couple sections where I've kind of used like trees as the off-track border, tough blocks. There's some sections where I've used logs as the off-track border. There's some sections that don't have any off-track border on them really. You know, it's got this I could definitely see your first couple laps could be really tricky on figuring out what is the actual edge of the track. So if you get a little confused, just come back to this video, watch it a couple more times. You'll kind of get an idea of what's going on. You know, there's some places where you're like going in between the trees. I did that on purpose right there to show you that you can actually run into the trees and get knocked off. You know, there's some sections where the trees are the border, like the tough blocks of it, and then that section right there is the one section where you're actually going in between the trees. They're not technically the border of the track. You get what I'm saying? So it can be a little tricky, but once you run a couple laps on it, you'll kind of get the idea. You know, those rocks there before on the inside, that was kind of the border there. And then right here, it's kind of just the raised terrain as the border. And then you kind of follow this little path right here. You can snake up the inside and kind of hit where both of those logs sort of kind of bend down into each other, and then it's not quite as much of an abrupt log to cross right there. So you can definitely pick up a lot of speed if you go through that one particular area. But yeah, I mean, there's two sections where it's kind of like more of a hardcore trail section where you've got the trees really close to the edge of the track, and this is one of the sections right here. Man, I just love how that natural arcing of the terrain, just that is so cool how I put that together. Even me looking back at it now, I'm like, damn, that really feels like an actual, you know, real life trail track. And I did kind of do like this one main rut throughout that entire section, so it does give you this cool kind of feeling like that. But that's the one little where you just go in between. You'll have like two trees on both sides of the track kind of guiding you through it there. There's that section, and then there's one more section like that you have to kind of not just, you know, blow right off the track on, because it's kind of easy to do that. And if you do that, you're going to miss the timing gate, because I put the timing gates in between these trees. So this is the other sort of section where you just have to follow. It's pretty easy when you see it. Like you're just following between these two types of trees here, these main bigger, you know, they don't really look like any of the other trees on the track. So as long as you follow in between those, you'll be okay. Same way up here, I kind of used them as an inside tough block up here. You see that right there, and then this log right here is sort of the outside, so you're kind of using the log as a rut going through the corner. But yeah, so basically those are the only trees that are really collidable on the track. And like I said, there is that one section where you're going in between them. They're not actually the borders, so just remember that, and you'll be able to get through that section pretty good. But yeah, in some of those sections, oh, and this section right here is super cool, man. How it's got this like really cool off-cambered type of feeling to it, where you're coming up back around the corner. Got some nice leaves decals. I don't even know how to say that shit. Or, you know, you obviously got the more so kind of fall feeling. I tried to make the fog to where it wasn't like super hardcore and you couldn't see anything. I think that would be cool to make a track more so like that. But this does definitely have some fog on it, but it's not so much that you can't see, but it does affect it a little bit. It's kind of somewhere in that mid-range. As far as like how much the fog actually affects it. But if you notice, if you put too much fog on a track in this game, it can get to the point where you can't even see. It's almost like you build this fog of war literally, and you can't even see the tree colors or the decal colors or anything, you know. So I had to be really careful there and not make the fog so dense that it, you know, you just can't even see the track. So that was kind of a bit of a balancing act there. Let's see if I can get this third person camera where I want it. Okay, obviously the water sections are more slick than the rest of the track, but that's the only difference of actual you know, tile map on there. The actual fillings of the dirt, I just have a standard dirt filling, which is a little bit more like on the kind of the loamy type of filling, more sandy fill. I didn't want to make it super hardcore where you can get like a crazy amount of speed and hit some wicked jump. Wanted to kind of keep the speed down a little bit on the track. You can get going pretty fast in some sections, but it is more of a forgiving kind of dirt. You know, you can kind of like slide into the dirt a little bit. It's got a little bit more of the movable, loamy type of filling, as much as you can get on MX Simulator. I realize this game basically doesn't have any movable dirt like Reflex, but check out this cool little section right here. This just came out of nowhere, dude. Like, most of these sections on this track, I just started building them. There was no idea behind it. There was no goal behind it, and what it ended up creating is these super cool, unique type of sections, man. I mean, even, I'm not just saying that because, oh my God, I'm Spencer Turley and oh, I'm so great. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying even when I go back and ride on this track and look at some of these sections, I'm like, damn, how did I even make that? You know what I mean? And because you can't just formulate it in your head to make it like this. Nearly this entire track is made from raising, lowering, smoothing. You know, it's not really made from a gradient. It's not like I went in there and like literally built each individual hill and section. I did, but it's from layering on top of raising and lowering all types of terrain kind of randomly and then smoothing it and figuring out kind of how the track will naturally warp and flow around all that. So that's kind of how all this was created right here. Pretty sharp corner right here. You want to be careful. If it's your first lap, it could be easy to just like jump straight over that. So a sharp left there, and then as long as you stay in between the trees here in this rock section, you won't miss any timing gates. So that's kind of your barriers there. You know, obviously you don't want to just cut off to the left and completely skip a tree and just use that as an outside berm over there, because you're going to miss a damn timing gate, you know what I'm saying? So it can be a little tricky, but just, it's a trail track. There's supposed to be somewhat of an element of like figuring out what the track is. Even in real life, that's how it is. You don't really always know what the border of the track really is on a trail track. So you get a little bit of that element going in on this, but you can see right here, you can actually hit this outside berm over here to the left, because that's the edge of the track, because obviously the trees aren't the edge of the track, because you're able to go in between the trees. So you see how it can kind of, your edge of the track can change depending on where you're at on the track, depending on what kind of objects are going to be your edge of the track. Like right here, the inside boulders are the edge of the track, but right here to the left, there really is no what you would call like edge of the track there. So yeah, this is a pretty hardcore downhill section. You want to be a little careful. This is one of those, I should have put a damn stop sign up on both sides of it, but I think it's cool to have those kind of sections on a trail track where you really got to get on your brakes in some areas, and some sections, you know, you're having to do unorthodox things on the bike that you wouldn't normally do on a regular motocross track, and that's what makes it a trail track, you know what I'm saying? So a little bit tricky right there. I'm not sure if you could just hit that thing wide open and, you know, kind of hook up off of that and be able to still land it. You might pop off the bike, so it's kind of a, you're just gonna have to play around with how fast you're gonna be able to hit that downhill section there. But yeah, man, just having a lot of fun. Got a lot more tracks coming. This is what I enjoy doing, man. If you couldn't already tell, like when it comes to all the kind of videos I make, all the stuff I make, this is where it's at, because not only am I able to make something really fun, but I'm helping the game that I love. I'm literally expanding the game that I love. You know, I'm actually helping MX Simulator live longer by making more tracks for it. That's what's so cool. When you become a track maker, you're actually helping that game and you're making it live longer. And I just don't see enough of these hardcore trail tracks like this in MX Simulator. So it's really cool to be able to come in here and make something like this. But like right here, you can see she gets pretty damn narrow here, bro. You have to be careful. But like I said, there is a little bit of lenience on the tree collision. So like you can pretty much rub your handlebar into the what you think is the tree, and it's not going to knock you off. It's once you start getting like your wheels into it, that's when you're going to have to be careful, you know, when you really start getting like more of the middle of your handlebar irking into the tree and your fender and stuff, it's going to be a little more tricky. But yeah, so one really cool thing that I was able to create on this was, let me see if I can find it in a corner where it really shows it nicely. Right here you can see it a little bit, but basically the way I built this like singular rut in between these trees, what it created was this awesome feeling of like realistic tree where if you've ever like really dug a rut right beside a tree in real life and the roots start getting exposed, that's basically, I was able to create that in the game. So check this out, look at that, like where the roots, that is so cool how I even did that. I don't even know how that I didn't even think that was a thing in this game until I started doing this. But basically I just started lowering the terrain right beside a tree, and it makes it look like roots even though there's not really roots. You understand what I'm saying? It's this weird, like the way the model statue of the game was made, and when you lower terrain right beside it, you can actually create a bit of a root type of feeling to it. So that is so cool how I was able to make that on it. But either way, man, that's night trail for you. That's kind of the start straightaway right here. The logs out there kind of bordering the track there. I know this section can be a little confusing on what's the actual track, but you know, you can kind of base it off the left of the logs over there, and like right over here to the right, it's going to get pretty janky on the actual terrain. You know, like right there is pretty much the border of the inside of the track. So, you know, you're not really going to want to go too much further on that. I may go in there and put a little something to make it to where, you know, I may move that tree a little closer up so that that's more of the border there. But yeah, I'll have that all fixed and figured out by the time the track fully comes out. So yeah, I'll leave a link down below in the description as always for the track link, and should be looking out for more tracks, man. This is what I love to do. This is what it's all about. It's what I started on. This is what I'm best known for. I know I got into a lot of track reviews and compilation videos and wide open videos and this, that, and another. But really, this is Spencer Turley right here, and got a lot of unique ideas coming your way. Just gonna get in there and finish those up and be getting those tracks out. Oh man, it's weird how track making in this game, at certain times it can feel like you get so annoyed with it and you're just like so burnt out on it, you're so tired of it. But then other times I get in there and start making something like, oh, that looks kind of cool. And then I get in there and make the next section and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, never seen that on a track before. And then before I know it, I've made an entire track that's got like 1,000 super unique sections on it, and it's like, dude, that was super fun making that track. So it's just about finding my own personal motivation to want to make the tracks again. That's really the trick here, because it's easy to lose motivation because tracks just, it seems so impossible when you're just sitting there with a blank track in the game. It just feels so impossible to really put something fully together. But when you start making it, it's like this comes together, that comes together, you make this, and that thing comes together, and then you build this little section, and before you know it, you got something really cool, and it was fun while you were making it. But it can be very difficult when your brain gets in that mindset of like, oh my God, how am I going to be creative with this? How am I going to make another super creative thing? Like, I've already done a lot of stuff. Like, how am I going to do it? Right? You just have to get in there and do it, basically. I mean, that's really all it comes down to, and not be so fearful of people's opinions on your track. I know that can be a big sort of halting element to track making. You think, oh my gosh, especially if you're a track maker that's been around for a little while. It's one thing I've noticed. It's almost like you get so into the, you think your track is not going to live up to, what people think of as your track making standards. So then you think, oh, well, this is not as good as my other track, so shit, might as well scrap this track. But it gets to the point where you just have to stop worrying about it. Like, look at this off track over here. There's about damn nothing out there. And guess what? I don't give a fuck. There's nothing out there. Over there to the right, it's pretty much as simple as you can make an off track over there. I mean, there is some changing terrain and a natural hill and all that, but the fog effect, makes it to where it's not as apparent that there's really nothing out there. It looks just a little bit more plainsy over there. But the big reason why I didn't do that, like put trees over there to the right, is basically it just looks worse when I do that. Like, I tried to kind of start putting some trees and stuff over there, but really it just made it to where there's a certain point to where when you start putting objects in an area, then you got to put more objects in an area. Whereas if you just leave it a little more blank, then it just kind of looks like that floating hill, plainsy, no trees off in the distance. You don't really notice it as much. But when you put like a couple trees out there, then it's like, what the hell are those 2 trees doing out there in the middle of nowhere? You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I ran into here. I found it to be a lot easier just to not even put anything out there and reserve that space for not as much lag on the track. That's basically what it came down to. And it just looked better in my own personal experience there. But yeah, I mean, you can see very, very simplistic section as far as off-track stuff out here, but it's cool because it gives it a nice little contrast from the rest of the track that feels like you're in this super dense, deep forest. So I hope you guys do enjoy me going back to the standard woodland vibe. I know a lot of you guys get a little tired of the crazy Spencer Turley out in space dimensional, super unrealistic shit. I know you guys get a little tired of that, so it was nice, little refreshing change coming back to the standard woodland. But yeah, I hope you guys have some fun on it. Just don't get too frustrated. Just run a couple laps and you'll kind of... I know some of these little rutty sections like this, these bigger ruts, the terrain can be a little bit like a splicing feeling on it, but that's kind of the whole goal I was going for here, to give you like you're kind of riding on this pretty hardcore, almost muddy, but not quite, kind of like you're hitting these rut type of, or root and rut type of combination filling. So that's why the ruts can feel like not as quote-unquote smoothed out as you think they should be. That was me doing that on purpose so that it gives it a little bit more of a challenge than your standard JGMX smoothed out rut, right? I was trying to make it a little bit more challenging. So yes, I did do that on purpose. It's not just a shitty, track design there. So either way, this is a bit of a hill right here. It can be a little tricky, especially if you're on a 250. You might have to go back down it a couple times before you get back up it, but it's definitely not as difficult as some of the other hill sections I've put in some of my tracks. So yeah, man, it's kind of fun when you can actually get going really, really fast on this track. See, this is an area where I did start putting some trees over there to the outskirts of the track, and you see kind of the feeling it gives it. It almost makes it look more basic than if I didn't put any trees out there, but it's only really in this one corner that you see it, so I feel like it's okay in that corner. Then you come out to this more plainsy kind of feeling, and you're seeing those off-track, I don't know where that object comes from. It comes from some track where it's got that almost like cornfield-esque. You can sit over there to the right, but it's not quite. So I feel like it kind of fills in that area over there a little bit. And a couple water sections here. And yeah, just had a lot of fun making it, man. So either way, I'm going to continue to make these tracks. I'm going to be posting this on the forums really soon. So it'll be on there as well. And yeah, just definitely having a lot of fun with it again, man. Look at this section right here. I mean, just such a unique type of design to it, and it really adds and puts together the whole off track, having the leaves on the ground filling. It's just that little bit of additional, and the way that I layered the off track grass with a totally black basically like tile map on the ground gives it an even darker nighttime feeling to it. There's absolutely no like external shading on the track at all. There's none. And so it is missing a little bit of that like super pitch black dark element to it. But it gets pretty hella challenging when you start making a track like that, because then you got to put lights in on it and then make different separate lighting for areas. It gets a lot more extreme and tedious when you do that. So I found it to be a little easier just to make it kind of normal-esque lighting, not like a crazy amount of shading, but just have fog on it and kind of giving you that nighttime feeling in that sense. So it's not nighttime like you need a damn flashlight out here, but it's darker. So that's kind of the element that you run into with it. So either way, man, don't forget you guys can always donate down below. It definitely helps the whole situation here, whether it be YouTube making or custom track making or whatever. It all goes to the same place. It just goes straight to me. So if you do want to get into donating or whatever, you'll be shouted out in the beginning of the next video. So yeah, and also your message will be read as well. So if you want to go in there and put something really stupid, I'll read it depending on how stupid it is. If it's too stupid, then I can't read it. Obviously for YouTube, laws and whatnot. But if it's in the realm of reasonable, I'll be able to go in there and read it. So either way, man, yeah, going through the forest, showing you some of this off-track stuff that you never need to see. But yeah, I got this cool, almost like an old-school MX simulator track type of feeling. It's got some elements of that, almost like a 2008 or 9 or 10 MX simulator track. It's interesting. It's like, feels to me like a pure MXS classic or something. That's kind of the feeling I get from it. I don't know really how that feeling was created, but it's just kind of how it happened to be. So this little rock garden section right here can be a little tricky because you're going through a corner and hitting a rock garden. So, but once you kind of figure out how to slow pace yourself through that, it definitely becomes a lot easier. And yeah, so either way, man, don't forget track link down below. You guys can go add me up on Steam. Been having some fun little races on there. Going to be doing a lot more there in the future. My Steam name is just Spencer Turley, no space, no capital. I'll add you back and play some MX Sim and invite you to some cool stuff on there. And who knows what we'll do in the future, man. May do some collaborative track making, may do some track editing, testing, may do some track judging, other people's track live. Like, there's so many different potential stuff that I want to do in the future, but it's just all a matter of time and putting it all together. But go add me on Steam, that way that I get you in the kind of the big Spencer Turley group that I got going here, and we'll get stuff rocking on. So either way, dude, we'll get stuff rocking on, you know what I'm saying, dog? Yeah, nice cool little view of that moon when you go up this hill. But either way, man, check out the track design. What's up, dog? You got some floating grass out here. I actually did noticed that and I moved that back, but I didn't save the change because I jacked up on something else. I remember that specific section right there. I did actually fix that little bug grass object there already once, but I didn't save it because I messed up on something else and I didn't want to save that aspect of it. So I basically just reverted everything and then it brought this back to where it was. So we'll fix that before the final version, but every link down below will be the final version. You know, I'll go in there and fix everything, all the little last touches before I actually put the link out there. So, yeah, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.